Some games fly completely under the radar, packed with incredible design, rich storytelling, and gameplay that rivals big-budget titles. Most of the ones we're diving into today are indie gems that truly deserve more attention. This video covers some of the best underrated games out there, games that could easily give you that perfect 10 out of 10 experience. Let's start the list right away. First up, we have SUMMERHOUSE. You know, SUMMERHOUSE feels like one of those games that pops up out of nowhere and just sticks with you. It's kind of like a warm breeze that sneaks in, and suddenly you're not thinking about anything else except the moment you're in right now. That's exactly what the developer seems to be going for here. A love letter to those lazy, endless summer afternoons where time stretches on and your only task is to do absolutely nothing of consequence. You just build. What's cool is that there's zero pressure, no objectives shouting in your face, no timers or leaderboards. You're free to craft these tiny, idyllic neighborhoods, whether it's at the edge of the sea, tucked inside a bustling cityscape, or even nestled into the mountains. The act of arranging homes, placing delicate details like little flower pots or ivy crawling up the walls, it genuinely feels like a form of meditation. Now, developer Friedemann is not a big studio, which is part of why this game feels so personal. You can see a bit of that indie charm woven into everything. Think about the way the textures of the houses feel hand-painted, or how subtle shifts in lighting evoke early evening sun. It's like the developer's memories of summer distilled into something you can interact with. Tangibly soaking up those scenes isn't about just what you're creating. It's about how the atmosphere lingers once you've stepped back. That's what could propel SUMMERHOUSE to a perfect experience for some. Next up is Bloody Hell. Bloody Hell really kicks up the intensity. Compare it to the previous game, and you've got almost an opposite kind of experience. This one's chaotic, a fast-paced top-down shooter where pixelated demons come at you constantly. The controls, super tight, responsive, and perfect for that sort of frenetic gameplay where dodging those incoming mobs is as satisfying as landing your attacks. The game's got this ridiculous, over-the-top feel, like it knows it's a blood-soaked arcade shooter and just leans into it hard. There's this dance between attacking like mad and dodging even wilder, making it feel like you're balancing on a knife's edge the whole time. And while the pixel art isn't anything new, kind of reminiscent of other indie roguelikes out there, it's the pacing that really kicks it up a notch. Every room is like a fresh burst of chaos, and it's that unpredictability that keeps you moving, never settling. It's not all perfect though. The difficulty curve might catch some off guard. It ramps up fast, and if a player isn't ready, you're done before you know it. Still, for fans of games like Enter the Gungeon, there's so much to sink into here. Up next, we have Capybara Spa. Now this is one of those games that feels like a warm hug, a cozy management sim where you run a spa for capybaras. Yeah, it's as ridiculously wholesome as it sounds. There's nothing complex about it, which is part of the magic. You place baths, gather flowers, set out snacks, and just watch as the capybaras soak and relax. It's incredibly laid back, easily a contrast to the intensity of something like Bloody Hell, you know? The team leaned hard into stress-free mechanics. No time limits or crazy demands. It just lets you be. You're rewarded with peaceful ambiance, like the soft rustling of the wind or the occasional happy squeaks from the capybaras themselves. Honestly, the game almost works like a form of digital self-care. It's the kind of game you end your day with, rather than pump hours into non-stop. One small thing that might nag at you, though, the simplicity could eventually exhaust itself. You wonder if there's enough to keep going long-term without adding a few more layers later on. Maybe an expanded mechanic or two might have gone a long way. Still, for what it's aiming to do, it pretty much achieves it. Coming in next is Wylde Flowers. Wylde Flowers takes that farm life formula and flips it just enough to feel fresh. At first glance, yeah, you're managing crops, taking care of animals, kind of like the usual stuff we see in other life sims like Stardew Valley. But then, the magic kicks in. No, really. With witches, spells, and a bit of charm that pulls you deeper in. It's not just another harvest and sell type game. There's this whole coven vibe to balance out the farming routine. The world itself wraps around you with a warmth that makes each in-game day feel like a visit to a place where you want to be. Not just because of the tasks, but because of the people. Where some games of this type get bogged down in the grind, Wylde Flowers tops it off with narrative beats that push you to keep going. A little criticism though, some of the days might feel slow, almost too slow, which could trip you up if you're used to the faster pace of other community sims. That being said, slowing down might be exactly what makes it all click. It's about living, not just completing. It's got a kind of unfolding magic that keeps revealing more as you dig in, both figuratively and literally. Next on the list is What Remains of Edith Finch. Now, What Remains of Edith Finch, this one needs little introduction, right? It's like always in the conversation when talking about narrative-driven games that make an impact. You probably heard me mention this one multiple times, so it might feel predictable, but it still deserves a spot here. You open doors not just to empty rooms, but entire stories. Each individual Finch has their own tale, packed with this emotional weight that stays with you long after the credits roll. The narrative flows like a living scrapbook. It's an anthology, but at the same time, it's not. The stories link together in a way that builds a full picture of loss, memory, and family. There's this one sequence everyone talks about, Lewis's story. It's a masterclass in game mechanics telling a story that words alone couldn't achieve. You navigate a world within a world where the duality of his reality unfolds. Honestly, it's a little overwhelming how effectively this game captures your attention and doesn't let go. The issue, though, is it ends almost too fast. You're living in these stories, fully absorbed, and then it's over. You kind of want more, even if it might ruin the pacing. Maybe that's part of its charm, though, leaving you wanting, still lingering on those bittersweet notes. Up next, we have Spiritfarer. This one really dug deep into what happens next. It's all about death without ever feeling like it's about death, if that makes any sense. Instead of being grim, it's almost reassuring. You're ferrying souls to the afterlife, saying goodbye. The connection with each character aboard your ship eventually leads to a farewell that's emotional, but not draining or hopeless. You take care of their spiritual and physical needs, and in doing so, get attached. The animation? Absolutely glorious. It's all hand-drawn with soft colors that pair perfectly with the tone. Every part of Spiritfarer's world feels intentional. There's a rhythm to sailing across its vast ocean, meeting these colorful personalities with their own stories that gradually peel back layers to reveal something deeper. However, sometimes the pacing can slow down a touch too much. Especially after certain farewells, the game almost feels like it's sluggish, like you're waiting for the next big moment rather than constantly engaging. That said, the Jackie and Daria update definitely addresses some of that, filling in with more activities and characters to connect with. It's designed to give you more time to settle in, and that expansion helps round out the game. Next, we've got Alpaca Stacka. Alright, Alpaca Stacka is one of those games where you're instantly charmed from the first frame. You guide a little alpaca named Paz around trying to find lost farm animals, stacking them on your back. It's a super short, simple, and wholesome experience that's kind of perfect for when you're looking for something light to pass the time. There's no stress here. You just walk around this colorful, cheery island, gathering your lost buddies. It's relaxing. It sort of gives you that kid book feel, like a playable children's story, which is rare and honestly refreshing. Doesn't take a lot of time to play through, maybe a quick half hour at most, but Alpaca Stacka kinda does exactly what it sets out to do, make you feel good. Sure, you might say it's too short, and a little variety in puzzles wouldn't hurt, but that'd probably complicate its charm. It's got that minimalist sweetness, where adding more might have ruined its quirky appeal. Think of it as a tiny snack game, something short but oh so sweet. Moving on to Garden Galaxy. Now, Garden Galaxy takes things slower, really slow. This one's about making your perfect Zen garden, but with almost no instructions or set goals. Yes, it's procedural and you mostly decide how it all looks. You get these little coins that you toss into a pot and, in return, receive random objects to build your garden. Vegetables, rocks, lanterns, trees, anything and everything to piece together a chill environment. It's all about your creativity, letting you sculpt something that feels personal. There's this tactile element to the gameplay where shuffling objects into place feels like building a detailed mini diorama, and there's a subtle satisfaction from seeing it all come together. Or not, depending on the randomness of the objects you get. One thing that holds it back slightly, the randomness can sometimes overwhelm the very zen vibe it tries to foster. You might find yourself wishing for more control over the items, but Garden Galaxy leans into that unpredictability and it works for most part. Just don't come in expecting a traditional garden builder with set paths. It's all your vibe, whatever that ends up being. Let's continue with Haven Park. If Alpaca Stacka is a brisk little jaunt and Garden Galaxy a slow creation sim, Haven Park lands right in the middle. You take on the role of a tiny bird named Flint, running a nature park that's seen better days. You'll explore different biomes, set up campsites, build little extras like fireplaces and benches, and meet quirky visitors. It feels like a mix of Animal Crossing and a short hike. In fact, its outdoorsy setting pulls directly from a short hike, almost like a spiritual cousin. You're trying to make things cozy while exploring peaceful surroundings, and the vibe stays lighthearted but purpose-driven. Now, the world is not huge, so exploration doesn't last forever, and upgrades can come quick if you're efficient. Players wanting more depth in their park management mechanics might wish for a little more complexity. Then again, complexity isn't what Haven Park is going for, is it? It's about plugging into a world where you create comfort, both for yourself and the campers who show up. It's brief but sweet, and sometimes that's all you need, a bite-sized piece of serenity to wind down with for a few hours. Next up is a short hike. So, a short hike feels like one of those snug adventures that wraps around you, like a warm blanket on a chilly day. You're this little bird, Claire, and you climb, glide, and explore this picturesque island on your way to the top of Hawk Peak. But here's the thing, it isn't just about reaching the summit. Most of the experience is in the journey. The quirky conversations, little activities like fishing or collecting seashells, or just wandering. The real charm here is the pace. You go at your own speed, stopping to glide over lakes or chat with campers. It's like they took an open-world concept and squished it down into this handcrafted nugget of joy. And while it's short, like a couple of hours tops, it doesn't feel incomplete. There's no rush, and that's what makes it so special. The controls are tactile too. Gliding and running has this intuitive feel, pulling you into this serene moment of exploration. There's just one slight hiccup. If you're the type to look for deep or complex gameplay mechanics, this might leave you wanting. Beyond that, a short hike feels more like a quiet, beautiful memory you come back to every once in a while, and that twin-stick simplicity works because of it. Coming in next is Beacon Pines. Beacon Pines lands in this sweet spot between campy horror and heartwarming adventure. Think of it as a bedtime story gone slightly wrong. Even the characters seem to have a whimsical nature that's hiding something deeper. The standout feature here is how you control not just the actions of this quirky cast, but how their story unfolds. You fill in blanks with charms, words that shift the narrative direction. Each turn unlocks a different branch, almost like a visual novel with multiple possible outcomes. Imagine Stranger Things blended with Winnie the Pooh, but packed in a mystery that keeps gently pulling you along. The writing is tight, with a self-aware narrator that's as central to the experience as the charming little village you're trying to uncover secrets in. And that's where Beacon Pines hooks you. It feels like these stories are constantly shifting underneath your choices. It clicks, mostly. One tiny gripe, though. It can feel like you're being pushed down certain paths after retracing your steps a few too many times. In a game about choices, you'd sometimes wish for a bit more freedom to structure the whole story on your terms. Still, that doesn't distract from the way it draws you in with its cozy meets creepy tone. It's like your favorite storybook with a spoonful of mischief. Now, let's move on to RiME. Puzzle solvers who appreciate a game dripping with emotional storytelling, this one's gonna stick with you. Set on a mysterious island, you guide a young boy through stunning landscapes, uncovering ancient ruins and solving environmental puzzles. Think Journey, but with more complexity, wrapped in a narrative without dialogue. Everything's told through visuals and subtle cues. The game's got this painterly art style, soft and colorful, making every new corner of the island feel alive. The puzzles are not crazy difficult, but they fit right into the game's meditative pacing. You're never bogged down by mechanics for too long, so it flows as more of an experience than a challenge. The camera work frames everything in such a way that it pulls those emotional punches when you stumble across the more poignant moments. There's a sadness to the game too, though. As you progress, you start realizing it's not just a breezy island adventure, but layered with themes of loss and grief. Some players love how it doesn't force you to feel anything with words, a brilliant twist that keeps emotions high. RiME is all about immersion and heart, a quiet storm that leaves ripples long after you finish playing. Up next is Masquerada Songs and Shadows. Masquerada Songs and Shadows is nothing if not theatrical. The title of the game sums it up. Masks and magic painted in a Venetian-inspired world where political intrigue runs deep. The combat is tactical, sort of like the isometric RPGs you might remember, with pause-to-plan mechanics that let you think before every strike. You control a party, and combat involves juggling between abilities, positioning, and knowing when to throw up defenses or unleash an AoE attack. Each character's role is pretty defined, so it's about timing and working together. No button mashing here. But let's talk about the art and world. The cel-shaded, vibrant visuals hit hard with flair. Every environment drips with personality, from luxurious streets to darker, shadowy corners. The lore pulls you in too, and with fully voiced characters, it feels like you're watching a lavish stage play unfolding in front of you. Yet, it's not all surface. The story dives into heavy social tensions, religious factions, and historical grudges that give you more to chew on than just flashy combat. However, some fights feel bloated if you're caught off guard, and that pause-to-plan feature sometimes interrupts the flow for players wanting speedier action. It's taste-based, really. Whether you stick around might depend on how much you enjoy strategizing over reactions. Masquerada nails that fantasy vibe either way. Another game you'll want to keep an eye on is Smushi Come Home. Alright, buckle up because Smushi Come Home might be the most unexpected little gem you didn't know you needed. You're a tiny mushroom trying to, well, find your way back home. From the get-go, the entire world feels like it's been crafted with care, like wandering through someone's really well-tended magical backyard. The controls are simple, which makes exploring your vibrant surroundings feel breezy, and it's all gentle platforming and puzzle solving. You're hopping from leaf to leaf, meeting forest critters, and solving these chill little tasks. Honestly, the kind of game you play when you just need to relax. The art style leans into soft, cozy vibes, with everything around you feeling almost like it's straight out of a children's book. It's easy to get lost in meticulously placed details, from the way the forest light filters through to the tiny creatures that populate it. That said, there's this slight lack of depth when it comes to the puzzle mechanics. They aren't terribly difficult or inventive, which makes it skew a little too simple. Still, the game embraces that simplicity, and it works. It's about wandering, about that feeling of being small in a world that's big and just taking in everything along the way. There's something wonderfully endearing in how stripped back it is, like a cute little Sunday morning adventure. To wrap things up, here's Tunic. Tunic is a love letter to the action-adventure genre, hitting all the right notes for fans of that classic Zelda-style gameplay. Right away, the little fox hero steals your attention, and you're dropped into this minimalist, isometric world where everything's a bit cryptic. There's no traditional hand-holding here. You're exploring, discovering how the world works, picking up clever hints as if flipping through a manual half-written in a forgotten language. It's this lack of explicit instruction that's both its charm and its challenge. The combat's tight, requiring you to parry, dodge, and slash with precision, all while enemies swarm at inconvenient moments. It's surprisingly tough at times, a bit of a curveball considering how bright and cute everything looks on the surface. It has that Souls-like tension where you know you're going to die, learn, adapt, then power through a second, third, fourth time. Tunic also nails that sense of discovery. The world feels alive with secrets, and each corner turned often leads to a new revelation or a hidden path. The minor drawback, though, it can get confusing. The subtle guidance style doesn't work for everyone, and some players may get frustrated by how little help the game offers. Still, for those who relish piecing things together bit by bit, Tunic delivers in spades. And there you have it, folks! If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more. Drop a comment below and let us know which game caught your eye, or share some of your own hidden gems. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.